able to just sit down and just literally bawl, just literally cry it off, because I felt that pressure, that weight just get lifted off my shoulder. But even though that the weight was lifted off my shoulder, there was still a weight on my head, because I'm saying, okay, I do this course, I still have this exam to go and do, the certification, the board certification to go and do. I just have a master's and that's it. You understand? I'm not certified in anything. I can't practice or anything. And so I was just there. But at that time, honestly, the weight on the head or the pressure on the head, it wasn't anything that big of a deal in comparison to the weight that was on my shoulder that was lifted at the time when I got the go ahead to everyone, welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, it is so nice to have you on the channel where it's all about nursing. This is Think Nursing channel, where I discuss everything that is related to nursing, from a nurse as a RN and a NP.
Road for 13 miles.
And so I will be giving you insight on different topics in the nursing field. All right, so today I'm gonna be taking you on a journey where I'll explain to you a little bit more about my nursing program, where I did it, and how the program was. And this is just gonna be a brief summary as to, you know, how everything went. For now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would love for you to please like, share, subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. You know, remember to comment, leave a like, a share, give it a thumbs up, you know, whatever it is that you would normally do. I would love for you to, you know, be active on the platform here. I'm at a point where it's almost 300 subscribers and I am so happy about it. But either way, yes, the goal is to get 1,000 and even more subscribers, and then I'll rejoice a little bit more about that. But nevertheless, you know, it is wonderful to have you all here, you know, sitting and listening, or whatever you're doing, just listening and being a part of the platform, engaging in, you know, the views that I share here. All right, so I did my program. I started my program in 2018. It was an online program. I did it in 2018 because I wanted the flexibility. So if you know, most of my videos are always about flexibility. I like flexibility. What I realized with the industry here, the health sector here in America, is you work so much but you don't get a chance to spend you know, a lot of time with your family, and that was just something that I wanted. So flexibility is always gonna be of key importance for me. I wanted to have something that in the event that I decided to move from the state that I was at, it was gonna be easy for me to do that transition without having to think about, you know, the fact that I was doing on-campus program. So initially I was getting into, or started the process for on-campus program, and then I changed my mind because I wanted to have a program that offers this flexibility. And did my application for the nurse practitioner program and got my resume, and got my was it my resume? No, I got my transcript from my university sent over to the university here in the US, and then they went ahead and did all the paperwork. I had a recruiter that I was working with, and the good thing, we were from the same country, so he was also a Jamaican, and that was, you know, pretty nice, because he was able to understand, you know, certain things that I was looking for in terms of the program, and, you know, he was just kind of on top of things when it comes on to trying to get resources for me to help with different things as I navigate this new program. I've never done online program before, and so this master's program would have been my first online program. So, you know, poor girl don't even understand how to use a computer that much, going to do full-time online classes for a graduate program. So the program was going to be a 2.5-year program. It was, they do the courses quarterly, and the payment plan, you can do either you can take your student loan, or you can do a payment plan where you pay per month, or you can just pay upfront. So whichever of them you decide, whichever one is feasible for you, then you'll go with that. So I went ahead and started the program. Everything was going fine. As I said, the challenge for me was more of the online. I wasn't able to, get in contact with certain persons as I would love to. Seeing my fellow classmates, interacting with them, especially when it comes on to quiz time or test time. I like to study in groups and, be discussing with other persons. So that was missing from the whole thing. There was a lot of coursework that was done in group as well. So you had to be exchanging number and communicating either via telephone, text, calls, emails, whatever it is. And then I just had a problem with persons being not reliable, because you can have persons being assigned a task just because of my experience in college, and they don't follow through on their assignments. So I never wanted it to be a case where you give somebody the task to do, and you're relying on them to do their part so you can actually get your good grade, and only to find out that they're not doing anything. So you basically get a lower grade than that you would expect to have gotten for the course, or for that section of the exam or paperwork that you're in a group for. But for the most part, everything went well for the first year. And then when it was time to try and get my clinicals going for my practicum courses, it turned out that at that time, COVID had started, and so it was difficult because no, all my clinical sites. So the thing about the program is that you have to find your own preceptors. You have to find your own clinical sites. You have some universities who provide, the practicum sites. Some do have like agreements with other locations, and so they will be more willing to take you as a student. There are others who are a little bit hesitant to take you as a student because of past experience that they've had. So it depends, but for the most part, my school, they had like affiliations with other places, but it turned out that a lot of persons weren't renewing their affiliation with the university, and so that was just something else, because now I am like driving 4 or 5 hours to try and find a clinical site just to speak with somebody to say, hey, I'm begging you, I'm asking you. They always say young girls don't beg, but I tell you, you have to literally be going to these places to be asking them, begging them for the opportunity to do your clinicals there. Otherwise, that was the hardest part about the graduate program, finding your own clinical sites. When you do finally find a clinical site, or at least for me, when I finally found a clinical site, then as I say, COVID hit. And when COVID hit, like a lot of places weren't at a point where they were ready to take on students, because nobody knew much about the COVID virus, and so they were a little bit hesitant with the amount of persons that were going to be in their clinics. So the use of like PPEs was a concern, probably cross-contamination, or just a lot of things related to the disease itself or the virus itself spreading, they were concerned about. And so they canceled all the contracts or the agreements that they had with students, including myself. And so I was there and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, because you're doing, so for example, the course is a 5-credit course. 3 hours was gonna be allotted for your clinicals, and then 2 hours was gonna be for your classroom or didactics. And so it was canceled. So now you're looking at you know, your 5 credits being canceled because you can't do your clinicals anymore because there's nowhere to do it. And so I reached out to the university and be like, hey, is there any plans in place to, you know, assist students who want to do their clinicals, who have gotten canceled but can't get a chance to do it anymore because the clinical sites are not willing. And they were like, oh, we're working on something, because a lot of students were having that issue. At that time, they decided to go ahead and say, okay, then we're gonna split this thing in 2. So if you can do all of your classroom portion or your didactics, no, you'll have 1 year from the date of completion of that classroom portion of the course to do your clinicals. And so I like the idea of that because, as I said, it was a bit of a challenge, and I never wanted to be like just hanging there not doing anything during that time period. And so what I did was I made use of it. So I went ahead and started doing the classroom portion or the didactics in order to prepare me for whenever the clinical started. So when you're doing the clinical courses, you can only do you can't be working full-time, you can be working part-time, but it has to be like a certain amount of hours, and you have to do sign like some waiver or some forms to say this is the situation with your work, because they don't want it to be a case where you're doing 2 clinical courses, which is going to be 10 credits, and then you're going to be probably feeling stressed out about the whole thing and probably ending up failing the course. So they want it to be a case where you're doing the bare minimum and still doing your clinicals at the same time, which is understandable, because I tell you, graduate program is very expensive. It is very expensive. So I went ahead and do the didactics. I did the classroom portion of the course, and what I was doing at that time was I was just ensuring that I try to get as much as I possibly can. So I was doing like, say, 2 courses at the same time, because remember, the classroom portion was like, say, 2 credits each. So I was doing like 2 courses at the same time in an effort to finish, just in case, you know, somebody decide that, oh, I can go ahead and start taking students. But at that time, nobody was still taking students in their practice. So for 1 whole year, I was literally, you know, trying to do my clinicals, not being able to do it. I was able to complete all my didactics for the courses that I have, which is the practicum courses. So I had 4 courses to do, and those were 3 credits each. So I needed a total of almost, say, 700 hours in order to complete my master's degree. And I was a little bit depressed, frustrated, you know, because I'm like, I'm this far. I just want to get to that point where I'm just over this thing. And so when they finally started taking back students, I was able to start doing my clinicals. And that made me felt so good, because now I feel like I am 1 step closer to finishing. Because I never know how long this COVID thing was going to be drawn out for, where providers were not going to be accepting students for rotation unless you're friends of somebody. Then, you know, you can be like, all right, then probably they'll take you in. So that was the situation at the time. I was able to go ahead and do that, where I started the clinicals, and during that time everything was just feeling good, because I don't have to be focusing on so much of the classroom aspect of it. But then when you think you're doing only clinicals, no, the university still added some classroom aspect to it, because they still had, like, you know, care plans to do. You have some grand rounds to do, so like presentations and all, you still have all of those to do during that time period. And so it wasn't that bad. I was able to finish. And then, you know, when you reach that last course, you are like, you know, yes, I finally did it. You know, you're just excited and just, you know, happy about the whole thing that you've done at least, you know, a second degree. So you've completed your bachelor's and now you finally done your master's. You mastered it. And when I tell you, it was one of the most wonderful feeling. And I tell you, I never even do my certification as yet, you know. I haven't started my exam as yet. It was just completing that first part, which is getting the master's degree. That was like, you know, feeling that overwhelming feeling that I had during that entire time. And I tell you, when I finish, send off, you know, and I get that email to say that I met all the requirements for graduation, I tell you, tears came to my eyes. It literally came to my eyes. I was just there bawling because I went through so much trying to get this thing done. Because initially when I started in 2018, I started in 2018, the April, was it the April? Yeah, I signed up for the program, and then I found out that I was pregnant. And I had a very, very awful pregnancy because I had severe hyperemesis. I was constantly vomiting. Time I was still doing my contract as a recruiting nurse from Jamaica. You understand? So just imagine trying to complete your hours just in time so you can actually get a little break. And then you're struggling with being pregnant, severe hyperemesis, back and forth to the hospital, feeling dehydrated all the time, you know, not eating, not drinking, having constant headache because you just feel as though you are like brain drained from everything that is going on. And even while I was in hospital, I was there still trying to complete tasks, complete assignments. You understand? And even though I got the go-ahead to hold off on the assignments until after, you know, I was finished with my delivery and settling for a little bit, you know, I never needed to hand it in on the due date. I could hand it in at the end of the semester. Even though they gave me that opportunity, I just never take it because I don't like to have work being pulled up or piled up, you know, with me, because I don't want it to be a case where I'm rushing to do all of this thing and then causing additional stress. So I like to get things done as we go along. So that was just me trying to finish that 1 and 2 little assignment that was due then. Because can you imagine if I had waited at the end of the semester to try and turn in, let's say 3 or 4 papers that were due during the week for 13 weeks or 12 weeks? No, no sir. So I just decided to just get them out of the way. You understand? Get them out of the way. It wasn't anything that was really difficult, but just the thought of being pregnant, or just the feeling that you have from being sick itself, from the vomiting and everything else, you know, just the feeling that you have, it just causes everything else to feel as though the world is coming, you know, to an end. It's just closing in on you. And so I was able to just sit down and just literally bawl, just literally cry it off, because I felt that pressure, that weight just get lifted off my shoulder. But even though that the weight was lifted off my shoulder, there was still a weight on my head, because I'm saying, okay, I do this course, I still have this exam to go and do, the certification, the board certification to go and do. I just have a master's and that's it. You understand? I'm not certified in anything. I can't practice or anything. And so I was just there. But at that time, honestly, the weight on the head or the pressure on the head, it wasn't anything that big of a deal in comparison to the weight that was on my shoulder that was lifted at the time when I got the go ahead to say that I have met the requirements for graduation. And so yeah, it was just a wonderful feeling. It took a little while, but rather than taking so when I started in 2018, I graduated in 2022, so it took roughly what, 4 years, because I literally had to sit out almost like a year, you know, almost a year, in terms of not being able to do any clinicals, do anything, because I completed my didactics and they still weren't taking persons. So I literally was out for a year. So it took me roughly 4 years to complete my program, and that wasn't the plan. But nevertheless, you know, things work out for a reason. You know, the Lord knows what he was doing. He's never wrong with any timing or anything. And that's what I want to say to people. You have other persons out there that are doing a program. They're going back to school in their late 40s. They're going back to school in their late 50s, 60s. You understand? Just to get a diploma, a bachelor's of science, their master's, their PhD. Nothing is wrong with it, you know. So once you have the motivation, you have the drive, you know, just keep on pushing and keep on doing what you're doing, because that's the most important thing, you know. Motivation and self-motivation is key. When you have other persons around you as well, it's very important, because they're gonna be there to help you during that time. They're gonna be there as the shoulder that you're gonna lean on sometime when you need to cry. Because I tell you, some days me just want bawl. Yes, me just want literally just bawl, cry. But then you have some friends who are just there to say, yes, Stacey, I'm proud of you. Yes, Stacey, you can do it. Or yes, Stacey, me don't know how you're doing it. Or, but them don't understand, say, I don't even know how I'm doing it. I'm just going one step at a time, trying to get past, you know, this hurdle. And that was just me, you know, always trying to just put myself in a situation where I get over the hurdle one step at a time. Now watch somebody else. Don't watch your neighbor, don't watch your friend. Everybody got their own different speed. Everybody got their own different speed. And that's what I always tell people. So if your speed is to go very slow and you know, steady, you will still reach where you'll reach. But don't watch anybody and think that, oh, you're not gonna go anywhere. Don't watch anybody and say, oh, this person is moving a little bit faster than you are. No, and also life go. Everybody go at their own little pace. Everybody have their own little struggles dealing with. So not because I might not talk about it and I might put on makeup and it might just seem like, you know, my world is a little bit better than some persons, you know, because other person probably just go ahead and make up them face and knit up the eyebrow and all of that stuff. You know, not because we do all of that, it doesn't mean that, you know, anybody's situation is better or greater than the other. So what we need to do is just push each other, motivate each other as we go along, and encourage each other, so that way we can, you know, be the best of ourselves. And that's all I'm leaving with us today. Be the better version of yourself. That is the most important thing. That is the most important thing you can do for yourself. Alright, so until then, please remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. Remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel for more. And, you know, as I say, remember to hit the thumbs up button. Remember to hit the thumbs up button. And sorry, as I say, I am just driving to work. And it's just a little bit easier for me to be vlogging, because there are days I really cannot find the time, because nowadays I'm mostly on the road. And yeah, I'm mostly on the road, and this is what is more fitting in the situation for me as we speak.